Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. We are back with the National Marine Sanctuaries and recognize their 50th year of ocean conservation and stewardship. The National Marine Sanctuary System is made up of 15 marine protected areas. Our guest today is Tracy Hajduk, National Education Coordinator for the NOAA Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. Tracy has worked for NOAA for the past 13 years, coordinating national partnerships to help increase ocean and climate literacy and access to the national marine sanctuaries through education. Tracy, it is a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic. Have to share with you this morning as I was finishing up my prep work for this episode and our interview is as I was kind of creating all the links in my show notes, I actually sent the links to your work, one of the pages on the website, which we'll share later with our listeners. I actually put that up on Facebook because I wanted my nieces and my nephew to say, you got to get your kids to look at this stuff. This is cool. And I think I had shared with you, my brother-in-law's family is from Alpena and obviously Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And just how cool is that just to get immersed in this, really the much of the great work that you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you are sharing. We are always trying to get the resources out more to people so that they know about them and they can experience them.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, I want to learn more about your work as a national education coordinator, that's the true goal, and the output of what your work is true gold because you're educating and you're providing a vehicle for young kids, adults like me. But let's hear a little bit about your background and how you came to work at NOAA.
Yeah, I actually got my start at the New England Aquarium in Boston, Massachusetts, which I really credit with helping me get into this field. I was actually talking with my mother and I was in college and I was like, I wish I could do something at an aquarium. And she kind of paused and looked at me and said, well, try it, like apply for an internship. And for whatever reason, it just seemed sort of this unattainable thing. And I looked and they had these internship opportunities and I applied, was accepted. And I really kind of think that was this door that opened that has led me to all of these really amazing things down the way. After the internship, I finished up another semester of college and then got a part-time job there, then a full-time job there, which led me to my next job at Northeastern University's Marine Science Center, also in Boston, which then kind of led me to NOAA and to the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. So it's this kind of little trickle effect that I don't think would have happened if I hadn't had that kind of one conversation back with my mom back so many, many years ago.
Very cool. And I'm curious, oftentimes with my coaching clients or people, when I'm chatting about what their story was, what was that moment of insight for you? Can you recall that when you thought the aquarium? Was there something that happened or just you had a dream? What was that?
I think there was a lot of things. I mean, I'm actually from more inland. I'm from Western Massachusetts. And so we would do a lot of lake vacations, which I loved. And we would do family vacations down to the beach too. And those were always just like the highlight of my year. I would have a months in advance, have a countdown to the hours until we got to the beach. And I remember just kind of thinking, even as a child, like, this is my place. This feels like it draws me in. And I think I kind of just absorbed that as much as I could. There was TV shows, I could ever get to an aquarium, books, and anything that I could kind of read. I naturally found myself being drawn to them. I didn't kind of fall into that career path right away. I didn't really know what I wanted to do because I was also really interested in education and was thinking, do I want to be a teacher or do I want to do science education? But I didn't necessarily want to end up in a lab or doing research. And I thought there wasn't really this in between. And I kept on saying, I wish there was this in between, and find out there is this in between, be kind of this informal science education world. And so I'm glad I I stumbled across it.
Fantastic. Now, your degree, when you went into college, what did you come out of college with?
It took me a long time because my advisor finally says you need to choose a degree because you're otherwise never going to graduate. So, and I was debating again between education and kind of the sciences. So I did settle on ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of Connecticut. And I decided to get a minor in communications, which at the time didn't seem to really make sense. But again, kind of coming back around obviously makes a lot of sense now with the communication part of it. And then later, I was able to also get a master's of education at Northeastern University. And another really helpful thing was actually I did a nonprofit management class, which is like a half master's. And that was really helpful just in terms of kind of the marketing and the communications and the strategic planning and a lot of things that you're doing to kind of move really many jobs forward.
Okay. And when did you first discover NOAA and the work it's doing with the this marine sanctuary space?
The first time actually I heard about it was I was in college and I was taking a course, a marine biology course. And I remember someone talking to me saying, "Oh, our professor's been doing some work in Stellwagen." And I was like, I don't know what Stellwagen means." And which was strange because I'm from Massachusetts and it's the
Right.
National Marine Sanctuary off of Boston. And so I remember looking it up and thinking, "Oh, that's really neat." And then when I worked at the aquarium, I kind of did any and every job I could. One of those was to fill in on their whale watch vessels, which at the time the aquarium managed. And so I was crew and would go out to Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary for my job and see whales, and it was amazing. I mean, just again, I felt like I woke up every day literally saying, if I could pick anything, this is what I would do today, and I
Oh,
got to do that.
very nice. I find it interesting that growing up in your area in the Northeast, Massachusetts, Skowhegan Bay, you didn't even know it existed,
Mhm. Yes,
you
that
know? And
continues to be one of our challenges
yeah,
is trying to bring these places and what people know about them.
and I love that. Like I had alluded to my brother-in-law, his family's from Alpena, where Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary is. And as I was interviewing Jeff Gray, and I had, you know, what I often do for my background is I get a picture that's coming off the NOAA website. And by the way, do you know where this picture's from?
I don't actually know.
My God, you don't know. Okay, I'm not gonna hold that against you. I'm
I
not gonna
was gonna.
tell.
I feel like I'll have to look closer.
I will not tell anybody. I will not tell
Okay.
anybody. But I digress. So the background of my picture was right along this river that exits out into Lake Huron. That's where Thunder Bay is. And I had mentioned my brother-in-law's family worked at the old paper mill, which paper mills are all along the waterway, do bad things to the water. And he had said, it just so happens that the National Marine Sanctuary, our visitor center, and our facilities are right at the old paper mill, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And so what you just shared, I think, kind of made me wonder how many people actually know that in their backyard is this National Marine Sanctuary?
Not enough. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of what the whole our everybody in our office is trying to do is we always talk about sanctuaries as like the best of America's ocean and Great Lakes and coastal areas. And it's we want people to know about them, to know that they're there, what they have, the significance of them. I know that they can go there. These are places that are open and you can visit and you can explore or you can learn about them even if you're not able to visit them. There's so many ways you can engage. And so I think that for sure that is kind of one of our biggest struggles. And we really appreciate again the right with so many of other federal partners. People know about national parks and forests and so on, but there's these amazing ocean places and Great Lakes areas that are just as amazing. And so the more people we can tell that message to, the better.
Fantastic. And I do have to share when I was with Sarah Fangman, that was the episode before ours today. And she had said, when you get to the Florida Keys, you are actually in the National Marine Sanctuary area. That was like, really? I was an eye
Mhm.
opener. So I'm like, I learn something new every time I interview one of your peers. So I love that. So you get to NOAA. And what was like the path to become a national education coordinator? Because it's kind of bringing in a lot of the things you're interested in the past, and it's all
Yeah.
coming together. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I was actually really again, it was kind of a little bit of luck for me. I was at a conference and I met someone who used to work for our program and was just kind of feeling out other jobs and opportunities. And they had at the time a 1-year contract position that was open. And she's like, "Why don't you apply for it?" And she's like, "I think it's closing today or very and very shortly the closing period was." So I did. I kind of scrambled to put together the application and they interviewed me and I took a little bit of a leap of faith because I was in Boston at the time and moved to Maryland where the NOAA headquarters is for 1 year position and was like, I don't know what's going to necessarily happen afterwards. And the 1 year anniversary kind of came and they kept me and found some more projects for me. So I was that in a contractor position for several years. And then eventually, again, some people shifted around and the national education job opened up. And previously I had been supporting that role. I was an education specialist. So doing very similar things, but in the contract role, and then became a federal employee. Gosh, I don't even know about 5+ years ago now in 2016.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Now, what is the responsibilities of the National Education Coordinator?
A lot of it is trying to. We have amazing educators who work at all of our sanctuaries, our 15 sites, and they are in the community doing work with schools and students and the public and lecture series and visitor centers and creating curriculum and just doing a variety of things. A lot of what I'm trying to do is to share that with other people, share it across NOAA, share it with other large partners, and making sure that I can help amplify the work that they're doing
Mhm.
because it's really impressive. Every single time I talk to one of our educators at one of our actual sanctuary field sites, I am impressed with their drive and their ideas and how they're thinking outside the box to engage with the community. So a lot of it is again just helping them. And then another kind of opposite part of that is having the time to work on some more like national level partnerships and some national level initiatives that we can kind of feed into. And so things that are happening in environmental education or getting kids outdoors and having access to green space and water space, education, climate change, ocean literacy, anything like that. And just, again, helping kind of figure out what's going on and then what we can do in our program to support these larger programs.
Okay. And I grew up in the Midwest, and I had in Michigan, I had water literally all around me. I will have to say, growing up, my family and I did not take as much advantage of that as I would have hoped looking back as an adult.
Mm.
And I'm reminded too, for example, in inner cities where kids don't get out of the square block that they live in, that's all they know. A
Mm.
variety of reasons they don't get out. How do we make, or how are you making the work of the sanctuary and the mission of the sanctuary more accessible to students that perhaps might not necessarily have ready access to get out to that body of water?
Yeah, that's a great question. One we definitely think a lot about. One of the things that's more relatively new for us because of technology is our VR or virtual reality videos. We started by making them more photos where you could again look and kind of see a different habitat and look around and it was a static image, but now they're actual videos. So as you're looking at these VR videos, a fish or a sea lion is actually swimming by you. And if you turn, you can see something else moving. And so it's this amazing way to experience the ocean or again the Great Lakes without being there. And we fully don't want it to be that you have to have the latest technology and VR headsets because again that obviously can be limiting for some people. And so all of this material you can use on a phone, you can use just on a computer and a website and kind of scroll around on the video. There's even like cardboard headsets that you kind of drop your phone into, but still when you turn and you look around and they're just a couple dollars for those cardboard ones, and so for us, it's one of the best ways that we have at the moment to take away that barrier of you have to be able to travel, or you have to live in a coastal place, you have to have the money or the access. Because even schools that are just in the area, the ability to get a bus and a substitute teacher and to make sure the kids who need lunches that are provided by the school to get over to a sanctuary still can be limiting. So this just could hopefully, as much as possible, kind of knocks down those some of those barriers. And we really want this to be accessible to everybody. And we're glad that we've been able to make these VR videos. We're kind of making them a couple a year and we'll continue to do so. And the technology is constantly changing. So I think that as we go into the future, there'll be even more immersive ways to do this and to bring this stuff to people no matter where they're located.
Okay. And how are you engaging with the teachers or the school districts? Because I know their time is limited, and now there's the complexity of it's virtual. A lot of it is still virtual in certain
Mhm.
places. Some of it is in person, but they have a curriculum, and to introduce your programming into their curriculum, it's all nice. It's great. I'd love to do it. I don't know how it's going to fit. So, how do
Mm.
you and your role work with either the teachers, the school districts to begin to incorporate your programming into their curriculum?
Yeah, that's another good question. I mean, some of it is to try and really make sure that we are letting teachers know how the lesson is aligning to the science standards that they need to teach anyway. Or again, maybe there's math or social studies or geography. There's all sorts of different ways, things that they have to teach. And so we try to make it very clear that this is kind of hitting on that same thing. So again, if you're doing a food web, you might have to teach kids about a food web. You can certainly do a land-based food web, but if you have the interest, you can replace that with an ocean-based food web if that makes sense for you in your classroom. And it's going to hit on that same point of what's the purpose of food web and how energy flows and so on. And it can kind of swap out. So as much as possible, we do that. Again, a lot of our educators in the communities are also working with teachers. I mean, they're hearing from them, they're hearing what they need, and they're trying to do a lot of local based programming and lessons that relate to the local area because most teachers do like to incorporate that local sense of knowledge or real world problems that are happening in their community. So that's another beneficial way. So but it is, we are constantly thinking of how can we help the teacher? How can we help the teacher? How can we help the teacher? Because they need it. And they really do need the support. They do amazing work. I mean, right, everybody kind of knows this now. If anything, the pandemic highlighted how much work they do and how much time and effort they have to put into this, and they are thinking of so many things. So when we can help them kind of easily make a swap for an ocean-based lesson, we really try to spend the time to do that for them.
Okay. Your communications director, Vernon, sent me a number of photos in preparation for today's interview, and a number of them had kids outside and just screaming and smiling, obviously smiling. There's a couple that were around a table with crayons and paper, and some of them were very obviously in front of a body of water. How are those kinds of activities and the lessons, how are they coming about, and what's the goal of those kinds of lessons when kids are physically at a location doing something?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is we were just talking about obviously the benefits of the VR thing, but having kids outside learning has many, many benefits. I mean, outdoor time in general, right? Has health and mental health and physical health and environmental stewardship and conservation and all sorts of benefits for the students, for the teachers, for the community, and students having experience with it and feeling like they're a part of it. That this is something that they can interact with and can belong to. And so I do think that those hands-on experiences where they're getting to touch something or do something outside is just it's a break for them. And it just I think it triggers these kind of different senses and feelings and emotions and learning styles in their mind than being in the classroom all the time. And again, all schools can't do this all the time, but as much as possible, we try and encourage or provide ways to make it easier for schools to have those outdoor experiences because I do think that it just it's seeing something, a picture in a book is different than being there and touching it and smelling it and feeling it and picking up that rock or turning it over or seeing something swim by. It changes us and it changes the students. And when I've done programming like that too, it's very rare for a student not to be engaged. And one of my favorite things too is when a teacher would come up and say, this student I have been trying to reach. I've been trying to get them to seem like they care. And when you tell them they can go and turn things over and look at things and touch things, they are the first one out there doing it. And it's an amazing thing. So it hits sometimes the kids, or it is impactful to the kids that may be struggling with the kind of more traditional school learning too.
Right. Yeah. And from a coaching or child development perspective, we all have different personalities. So we all learn differently. Some of us will love to be watching that immersive experience with the virtual reality. Some of us want to do research in a book. Some of us, as you just said, want to be out there turning over rocks, and we learn differently. We might get to
Yeah.
the same place, but our journey to that place is going to be a little bit different.
Yes.
What are some of the opportunities you have had to get out into the field and collaborate with your peers who are out in some of the sanctuary sites?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been different opportunities to go to the sites, and again, I think that's been always amazing to kind of see it. Same thing for me. I can read about what they're doing, talk to them about what they're doing, but when I'm there watching them interact, it's always just really impressive. And so there's been, again, our education team does try and get together occasionally, and when we do, we try and interact somehow and experience the place that we are in, as well as kind of talking business. We have a really interesting and amazing scholarship program called the Dr. Nancy Foster Scholarship.
Mhm.
And I've helped with that. It's for, again, women and minorities or underrepresented people who may not be in the sciences. And so it actually gives scholarship to try and help people kind of have that little bit of that leg up to pursue an ocean or NOAA related career. And they're, again, master's or PhD students, and helping the orientation it's just like really amazing experience, because we get this group of just energized, excited, young kind of scientists who just they're just ready to go and make their impact in the world. And it's really interesting because we also do communications training and networking. And it's not just the scholarship, it's kind of trying to help give them the tools to be as successful as possible, to share what they're doing and the importance of it, and think about interacting with different groups. And how do you talk to students if you want to talk to students? How do you talk to different people? So I really enjoyed that. I haven't been as much recently because I've young kids at home now, but that is always just such an impactful program. And I'm still a part of the program, but it's really awesome to see that.
Fantastic. And speaking of getting out and into the field, or perhaps even locally, have been some of the opportunities you've had to get up on the stage and talk about NOAA, talk about your work, talk about this
Mhm.
scholarship and initiatives? And I know there was a posting just recently on the website. Maybe it was this particular scholarship, but it dealt with diversity, equity, inclusion. And
Mhm.
it was just something. Since I've been doing these podcasts, I follow the NOAA website and the Marine Sanctuary Facebook page, LinkedIn. So I'm always seeing stuff. What are some of those opportunities you've had to kind of be up on the stage and either make an introduction to the sanctuary, or to share some of the initiatives that you're working on out into the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of definitely the circuit of conferences and things that we attend to. There's a National Science Teacher Association conference where we're trying to bring our materials to the science teachers across the country. And National Marine Educators Association is, again, marine educators across the country, and sharing information. A couple other groups too that are really fun to engage with is there's an organization, Outdoor Alliance for Kids, which is a network of about 100 different organizations, all just trying to get kids outside for all of the benefits. There's various reasons. And us and some of the other federal agencies are the federal partners. And it's nice to just kind of think through of across the board, you have agencies from health organizations and after school groups and diversity groups and the businesses that have like outdoor gear. How do we all work together to promote this idea that like the more kids are outside, the better for them, the better for the environment, the better for their families, the better for the community, just this kind of collective move forward. So it's been that's I think just there's these there's a lot of different initiatives going on that are all kind of working in that same way, in a very positive way, to try and realize that, the outdoors, one needs our help. The environment, climate change, sea level rise, and all the things that kind of come with that are the scary things need work, but there's people tackling it at like all these different levels, which is just so engaging to see. And it just makes me very hopeful for moving those things forward.
Was on the tip of my tongue, this word hope. And at some point, I was going to actually ask you about that, just given the nature of your work. Talk to us about how hopeful you are, just given some of the activities that are going on with within the sanctuary system and the organization, but also the groups that you're partnering with there. What are your talk to us
Yeah.
about hope?
I mean, I would actually put a lot of my hope into what we are seeing in the youth of today. I
Yeah.
have, again, I've been doing this for 20 so years, and I think that there continues to be this shift of youth, just incorporating it into their lives of, well, what am I doing at home? Like, how's that impacting the environment or the earth? And what choices do I make? And what do we do? Like, what is my youth getting involved in like city council saying, hey, I want to maybe talk about banning straws. Why are we using all these straws in my school? Or and so it's there's always through the history of time been youth who are active and engaged and kind of in that mindset. But the it's almost the norm now, that students feel like they have a voice, and if they want to make change, they have the power to do that. And the change they're trying to make seems to be all positive. They're trying to make it healthier and safer and more equitable and more access and fair, and you know what I mean. And there's just so many things that they're engaged on and are sharing ideas on their in their free time. It's not that they're doing this for a school assignment. Like, this is something they believe in. And so we think a lot about, how do we harness that? How can we not harness it to hold it back, but use this momentum that they already have, and take the stuff that we've learned through our careers and what we kind of know, and kind of tap into this movement that's already happening. So I do think that is for sure just makes me feel very hopeful. And it's interesting too, because there's a lot of information even about youth being like just having anxiety over climate and things like various environmental hazards. And but I also feel like they have the knowledge and the tools and are to make that change. So it's amazing. I think it continues to amaze me the more I learn about it. And I see it with interns we've worked with and school youth that we've engaged with, and both within my office and across other programs as well. I think a lot of people are seeing that.
Fantastic. One of the features we have on our podcast is called the aha moment. And I think you've touched on a number of the items, but I'd like to perhaps encapsulate it again for our listeners. Is it's the aha moment. Is you've been at this for, like you just said, almost 20 some years. Okay. A lot of great experiences. I mean, very interesting trajectory. At some point in your youth, you rediscovered that being outdoors, and there's some activities here I can get involved with. And that just kind of gave you a spark after spark after spark. And as you look back in the impact that not only you or the work that you're doing is having, what's been that aha moment for you where like something, I am really glad I've been on this trajectory, and and to see the impact that I'm making through your
Mm.
work.
Yeah. I mean, I think seeing some of the youth that I've worked with throughout my career, and where they've ended up, or I guess just the impact that the program I did or how I interacted with them had on them, I think is one of those moments. I've had interns from way back in my previous jobs to all along the way who are still engaged or still saying that was like one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And just to see, I love that time when I can see someone has like this energy and this interest, but they just don't quite know where to go yet, and helping them figure that out. and then seeing what they've done over the course of 2 years or 5 years or 10 years later is for sure really impactful, because I love that we can give them an opportunity to reach their full potential and really do whatever it is that they want to do. And just they sometimes just, that first step, I guess, is always sometimes the scariest. And so it's neat to see them walk through that and then just take off.
Yeah. It is wonderful when someone in your work and your history comes back to you and says, wow, thank you so much. And then, what that could happen once a year, for all I care. And it's like, then exactly what you're doing it's the right thing to be doing. That's wonderful. And it's great that you have that opportunity, because these young kids that little kid who just turned over a rock, you've have the ability through your work, through the Sanctuaries work, to change their lives in the moment. And that stays with them. I love that. If you were going to share with our listeners some insight, this could be a book, a quote about something that had an impact on you, but you'd want to leave with them to give them perhaps that initial spark about this is an area you might want to be interested in. Or maybe for listeners like me, I mean, I'm getting up there in age. Okay, I'm a little bit older than you are, perhaps quite a bit. um, but I'm just amazed at the Sanctuaries, and I'm just like learning something new every time I get ready to interview a new guest, just like you, and I get to incorporate that into my work, into my conversation. So those insights are having an effect on me. What would you share with, could be another child, could be a teacher who's, how do I motivate my kids, or maybe to your peers, your adults, or somebody wants to feel that they need to do something and they're not quite sure what it is. What would be your insight for them?
I think for me, one thing that's been kind of just rolling around in my mind recently is how many ways people interact with the ocean or the Great Lakes, or again, rivers or their local lake or water in general. And it amazes me how, one, it's kind of this global unifying thing, right? Water, in some sense, almost I can think across almost the entire global population, is a calming or significant or restorative or spiritual or whatever it may be to people. It makes people feel something. And I think that I'm kind of in awe of the no matter who you are or what your background or your interests, there's probably some way that you can connect to the ocean. And it may be your love of photography or your love of drawing or your love of technology and building something that goes in there. But it's this there's thousands and potentially even millions of ways that people can feel connected to it. And I think across the earth, people are feeling connected to it in this million of ways. So I love that it's just like this unifying, one global ocean really does unify us as a people too. It just kind of makes me feel curious and interested in how other people, what it means to other people and what it means to me. And what if I didn't have that in my life? And how can I bring that to someone else's life? So just kind of this vast opportunity that the ocean presents, I guess, is my kind of takeaway, and find what it means to you.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that. So I am curious, as a woman, a successful professional working in a very science-based organization,
Mm.
research-based, getting not only kids, especially those who are disadvantaged or perhaps come from a culture that perhaps doesn't relish this kind of an education. I think there's opportunities to inspire them, as well as to inspire young women, young girls who, look, you can be the scientist, you can go lead the team. And what would you say to young kids, especially young girls, perhaps even young girls of different diversity backgrounds, that this is something that is available to you?
Mm.
How would you kind of respond to that?
I mean, I think I would for encourage again them if they if any young girl of any background feels something of some just has I can't even describe it, but just has that feeling when they see the ocean and they interact with it, then just know that that is a place for you and that you are welcome into that community because again it is so vast and it is so large and it is found everywhere around the world in all cultures and so on. So I think that just encouraging them. And the other thing too is that we need that voice. We need those perspectives because the issues facing the ocean will not be solved by one group of people in one office. They are solved across the board at all levels through all types of people, through all types of jobs that they're doing and reasons that they care about the ocean. And so their voice matters and is actually probably very much needed and have the courage to know how important they are to this.
Very good. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Sure.
If our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, Tracy, where are the best places for them to go?
Yeah, the sanctuaries.noaa.gov website has all of our materials. There's a whole section on education under the Learn tab, and there's things for teachers, for students. There's things about our scholarship program, and even activities. And then the VR resource is another great way because everybody can again, even if you just need a desk, you need a computer or a phone, which hopefully most everyone has access to, and can play around on those and just feel that interaction with those videos in the ocean places and Great Lake places that they represent. So definitely check out the VR page as well.
Fantastic. Thinking is when I go home for Thanksgiving, which is God, it's been a couple of years. I work plus COVID. I need to maybe I'm not going to have those really slick Oculus virtual reality goggles, but I want to figure out the little cardboard box and take that home with back home with
Mm.
me so I can show my great nieces and great nephews about that. And this is the work that your great uncle, who you don't see a lot, this is what he does. He interviews people who get to do this. So I think it's wonderful. As you look back in your career now, Tracy, and again, you've got a whole other flight path ahead of you. But as you look back in your career, would you say or anything different to your younger self?
That's a good question. I don't know because I guess you kind of go into it just not knowing where that next step is going to be. And that's always a little nerve wracking of where will this lead me and where will this lead me? And I think I would just probably have a little more reassurance that there's a lot of opportunity in this. And if you really put your heart into it, that there's ways that you can engage and there's things that you can do. And if it's the career path, that's great. And if it's not, it can also be that hobby or that thing that you do in the more outside of your work part of your life. But so just knowing that no matter what, I could have found my way back to the ocean, whether professionally or in my personal time.
Very good, very good. I feel like I'm giving you these gotcha questions, and I don't mean to be doing it, but as you're sharing things, other things are coming to mind. That happens to me a lot. Just ideas
Okay.
go pop, pop, pop in the head. You mentioned kids. You don't have to share their ages, but do they know what mommy does or mom
And they
does?
do. Yes, yes, they do. They always say that mommy helps protect the oceans. They word it, which I appreciate. And they actually it's been really fun to watch them with the VR videos. It's one of their favorite things. And they they're old enough that they don't know the words, but the way they described is can we do the they do this little look around thing. That's how they asked to do our the VR videos at home. And so in November, we have a friend over. They always are like, can we show the friend the VR videos? And so,
I love
yes,
it.
they enjoy it for sure.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Tracy, it's been a pleasure to have you join us on the Outdoor Adventure Series. I am so grateful. I had the opportunity to meet Vernon and Grace way back earlier in the year, and we were able to kick this off because I thoroughly enjoy these conversations, and it's really cool to meet folks that are really passionate about the work that they're doing, especially the work that can have such a great impact. And thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, it was great to be here. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Very good. Listen, stay on the line. We're going to do a quick close and you and I can have a final chat. Okay. All right, folks. We have just been chatting with Tracy Hajduk, National Education Coordinator for the NOAA Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. I think we've hit another home run, hole in one. What's that thing in hockey? Hat trick, whatever you want to call it. Another great episode because we are learning so much about the work of the National Marine Sanctuaries. In today's episode, really, we're learning about the impact, how this work can have out into the community in education and informing young kids, teachers, communities about the role of the sanctuary and its impact not only on protecting our oceans and marine life, but also on the effect on climate change. And we also learned that there's some cool tools out on the National Marine Sanctuary's website that you can really immerse yourself in the experience, whether you're sitting in a home in the Midwest, where I'll be for Thanksgiving, but I can sit down and look at some of the great experiences that are taking place out in the ocean at these sanctuaries. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with my nieces and nephew, and you should do that as well. We're going to provide in our show notes some of the resources, especially the media resources that Tracy had shared with me. We also will have backlinks to the sanctuaries.noaa.gov website, and we'll also provide backlinks to the virtual reality page where you can see Sanctuaries 360, where you can explore the blue. That's their initiative that's out on the webpage. And now you're going to have something fun to do with the kids or the parents, grandparents over the holidays. So you're going to have those backlinks as well. Now, as for our podcast, you can find us on the OutdoorAdventureSeries.com website. We're also on LinkedIn and Facebook at Outdoor Adventure Series. And we are also on all of the podcast platforms. And we're going to have a short Get to Know Tracy video up on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day. Take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and we will see you on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.